right, everybody, chant along with me. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Yes, the term that Donald Trump is fit to serve, a term in prison. Indeed. 4 indictments, 91 charges, and still the judges are treating him with kid gloves. You know, there's literally no defendant in America who could get away with threatening a judge, threatening a judge's staff, threatening jurors, threatening witnesses without going to jail. Engoron, the judge in this case up in New York has, first he fined Trump $5,000 for violating the gag order on doxing his clerk. Then he fined him $10,000 and said, "I know you're lying to me." Why doesn't he put him in jail overnight? Just one night. Mr. Trump, I see you're sitting there making faces at us. Bailiff, please, put the cuffs on the guy. Take him off. I think it's because they're afraid of the violence. I don't think that they think that this is going to help Donald Trump. I think that they're frankly afraid of the violence. Which, as I pointed out in the last, I was going to talk about in this hour. This is what Mitt Romney said in his, in this new book by McKay Coppins, excuse me. He wrote a book, Romney's biography, basically. And in that book, Romney said, and this is from Brian Stelter. He interviewed McKay Coppins. He said, one of the biggest revelations to me in my conversations with Romney, this is McKay Coppins talking to Brian Stelter. One of the biggest revelations to me in my conversations with Romney was just how important the threat of political violence was to the psychology of elected Republicans today. He says, Romney, quote, told me story after story about Republican members of Congress, Republican senators who at various points wanted to vote for impeachment. They wanted to convict Trump or vote to impeach Trump, but they decided not to, not because they thought he was innocent, but because they were afraid for their families' safety. They were afraid of what Trump supporters might do to them or their families. That raises a really uncomfortable question, Coppins says, which is, how long can the American project last if elected officials from one of the major parties are making their political decisions based on fear of physical violence from one of their constituents? It's a great question. And this is very troubling. I mean, this is the essence of fascism. Fascism is, there's a lot of different definitions for fascism, but I would say I like the one that Madeleine Albright writes about in her book, where she says fascism is basically when the bullies take over. She's a little more eloquent than that. I don't remember the exact quote, but it's words to that effect. Fascism is government by bullies. And that's what we have right now. And Trump is bullying these judges. Well, not Eileen Cannon. She's doing everything he wants. But arguably, she's afraid of him too. It's just right across the board. You've got all these Republican politicians who are terrified of Donald Trump. This is no way to run a country. That literally is how fascists rise up and take over governments.